everyone. I'm Lindsay Lewis, editor of Building Enclosure. Thanks for listening along with us today. This podcast is sponsored by Johns Manville. Every roof is our reputation. I'm honored to be joined today by my guest, Mark Graham, Vice President of Technical Services for the National Roofing Contractors Association. Mark is here to chat with me about some current technical events going on in the industry. Mark, thanks for sitting with me.
Glad to be with you.
So the first thing I want to talk about is some code changes that have been happening. So can you tell us a little bit about the code adoptions in Wisconsin and New York? What are the most significant differences in the new code adoptions compared to prior versions?
The New York and Wisconsin, I think, are highlighting something that's becoming more commonplace. I mean, I've done a number of code presentations around the country and different webinars and things over the years. And one of the things we've talked about is how the concept in the codes has, for the last 20, 25 years, has been trying to get everybody working off of the same book, the same set of rules throughout the country. The Wisconsin and the New York adoptions are interesting because they're kind of showing a recent trend. In New York, it's a relatively straightforward adoption, but there's a pretty significant amendment included in the adoption. The straightforward portion of the adoption is New York State is moving from the 2018 I codes up to the 2024 I codes. So they're actually kind of leapfrogging one edition. But the interesting twist is they have added a electric readiness provision into the code. So the state of New York, for new construction projects and buildings less than 7 stories high, is going all electric. In other words, no fossil fuels after December 31st. And then the concept is additional years coming down line. So a year from now, they would go high-rise buildings also all electric. So that's just an example of kind of a code adoption with a twist, which is interesting. So an individual state doing something different than their neighbors. The Wisconsin situation is also interesting. Wisconsin has been on the 2015 I codes for years, well, for 10 years, I guess. And they actually had a state legislative decision that they were going to hold on the 2015 I codes for kind of an indefinite period of time. That state legislation actually went to the Wisconsin Supreme Court, and the legislation has actually been overruled. So what Wisconsin is going through right now and coming up for an October 1st implementation is Wisconsin is going from the 2015 I codes to the 2021 I codes. So they're kind of leapfrogging the 2018. And I think most of your viewers can remember from the presentations we've done in the past on code issues, there are some pretty significant changes on roofing. The most interesting change is Wisconsin's adoption of the energy code back in the 2015 timeframe. They adopted the 2015 energy code, but they actually swapped out the R value tables in the code from the 2009 code. So in a sense, for energy efficiency, Wisconsin is going from the 2009 code up to the 2021 code, all here within the next month or so. So I'm hearing a lot from contractors and the design community and things along that line. What's going on? It's kind of a shock, a little bit of culture shock up in Wisconsin on energy efficiency. And it's basically what everybody else is doing elsewhere in the country. It's just that Wisconsin is taking this big leap all in one step, and it's kind of hang on for the ride up in Wisconsin right now. But I think both the Wisconsin and New York situations are interesting. We are seeing state legislatures or state governments getting involved in code issues and making little twists or changes from the conventional I codes that most of us are used to. So it really kind of underscores you really have to keep an eye on what's going on at the local level, because we're getting back to where we were 25 years ago. Every time we cross a jurisdictional border, it's a different set of rules. It becomes challenging for us in the construction industry that work in multiple locations.
Well, speaking on those challenges, can you address some of the challenges that contractors and designers face when they're trying to adapt to varying code adoption timelines across those jurisdictions?
Well, it's exactly that. Every time you cross a jurisdictional border, it's conceivable a different code is going to be required or an additional legislative amendment to a code. So I'm going to ask your viewers to be exceptionally diligent, and you're going to have to do some homework locally on you not only have to ask what is the code that applies, because in most cases it's going to be one of the I codes, so you need to know the addition, but you also need to be aware of any particular modifications that apply in that particular jurisdiction. So we as the construction industry are going to have to spend some more time and do some more due diligence on a job-specific basis on what code is going to apply and when, and what are the specific modifications. It's an extra phone call. It's a little bit of extra tracking and things along that line. One thing I will caution your viewers, though, it's interesting, both in this New York situation and the Wisconsin situation, you see special interest groups coming out with kind of press releases or media releases saying, this code change is in effect and it's going to change this, that, and the other thing. We as construction industry professionals really need to go beyond those media releases, especially by the public interest groups. So I'm going to ask that you actually drill down with the jurisdiction or the authority having jurisdiction and ask them for the complete set of modifications, not just the popular one by the special interest group.
Now, in your opinion, how might these state level adoptions influence national trends in roofing codes?
Well, it's interesting. Last couple months, I've been working with the Chicago and Illinois Roofing Contractors Association on energy code modifications here in the state of Illinois, my home state. And quite a bit of what we're hearing in the Illinois modification process is New York is doing this, or California is doing that, or Georgia is doing that. And, it's good to maybe look at what a different state is doing on any particular issue. But from the energy code perspective, the climate in Chicago or the climate in Illinois is different than New York, California, or Georgia. So it's interesting from the information perspective, but it's really not totally applicable. So we see a lot of states trying to match what somebody else is doing, but we really have to kind of keep an eye on that. The energy code, the International Energy Conservation Code, takes into consideration geographic factors. It does a very good job at that. And I think taking, for example, a New York model and applying it to Illinois or somewhere else is not necessarily going to work too well. And then cost justification is a huge issue also. So, I mean, personally, from my perspective, it's a lot easier, and I think it's a lot more technically sound if jurisdictions would just adopt the international codes without a lot of modifications. But unfortunately, the current trend is adopt the I codes and then local modifications take over.
Now, can you explain the ICC's new condition assessment guidelines and how they effectively mandate annual roof inspections?
Well, that's a great question, and I'm going to give you a little bit of background and maybe spend more time on this than you thought with your question. But if your viewers remember the Surfside condominium collapse down in South Florida a couple of years now, one of the things that really surfaced there is there were some modifications, there was some deterioration to that building that the code officials weren't aware of. And I think it's interesting perspective that code officials do not have a lot of jurisdiction to go into existing buildings and do inspections once the building is occupied, once a certificate of occupancy has been issued. So ICC has put together a standard referred to as G7, It's an existing building condition assessment standard. And they're also working on a more of a kind of a code. I would call it a more official standard code language, which is going to be called ICC 1500. That's currently in the draft stage. But the concept is a building owner will be responsible for doing periodic condition assessments on his building. And when it comes to roofing, the area that I'm talking about, the standard is requiring a building owner document or have somebody conduct an annual condition assessment. Then it gets into more structured licensed design professional periodically doing a more exhaustive assessment of a building. But the concept is we need to be looking at maintaining our buildings on a periodic basis. In ICC's concept, when it comes to roofing, is there should be an official documented look at a roof every year. And it's relatively basic. I think something most building owners could do, or most contractors can do as a service and maintenance program, or consultants could offer the service. Just go through and make sure things are looking right. If there's leakage, document it and try to track it. Make sure drains are cleared out. Things along that line, just common sense things that we as the roofing industry are hoping building owners do. But the concept of ICC picking this up with the G7 guide and the 1500 standard is actually beginning to codify this annual preventative maintenance type of assessment. So I'm hoping over time this becomes a game changer for us in the construction industry. Let's maintain our assets, and particularly our roofing assets, and get the maximum life out of them.
Now, I want to shift the conversation a little bit and talk to you about manufacturers and warranties. So my question is, how do manufacturers typically define wind speed limitations in their warranties, and why is this significant for building owners?
We touched on that in a webinar I did for you folks. I think it was in May or June on wind design, and it's interesting. If you take a look at most manufacturers' warranties, they limit or actually exclude any type of coverage once a wind speed of, there's a couple of different wind speed provisions, but a common one is 56 miles an hour. And there's some history with that 56 miles an hour. But as you go around the country, we're required to design for a multiple of that. Maybe 2 times that wind speed. 110 mile an hour wind speed is a common design parameter. So what we're seeing, and I'm seeing this in an increasing number of claims, is manufacturers in effect avoiding or walking away from their warranty responsibilities anytime there is a wind speed occurrence at a building beyond 56 miles an hour. So, I mean, the fundamental question is, how frequent does that wind speed occur? In the webinar that I did for you folks a couple months ago, we talked about a measure called the mean recurrence interval, and that's the frequency that a particular wind speed will occur, or MRI for short for the wind nerds. We design in accordance with the code for MRIs up to typically about 1,500 years. So in other words, we probably are not going to see that wind in our lifetime. But within ASCE 7, the wind design standard, there are actually MRI maps all the way down to 1 in 2 years. In other words, frequency of a wind to occur in that period. In that 56 mile an hour wind, interestingly enough, is occurring in most regions of the country every 2 years. So I want the designers to realize, if you're relying on a wind speed warranty for your wind design, you're probably going to come up a lot short because the code is expecting us to design for the lifetime of the roof, or 1,500 years. That 56 mile an hour limitation that's in the warranties is probably going to get you about two years of coverage. And then, interestingly enough, no manufacturer coverage after that because of the void terminology in the warranty. So just keep an eye on that. I think there's a place for warranties in our roofing community, but let's not overly rely on them.
So building on that question, what design considerations should be taken into account to ensure that a roof system performs even beyond just the warranty limitations?
Well, we spend at NRCA a good amount of time on the codes, and sometimes we like what's going on in the codes, sometimes we don't. But professionally, I'm really comfortable with what the code is doing for us right now on wind design, and ASCE 7, I think, is a good level of design and conservatism for wind design. So that would be my recommendation there. On other areas, water tightness, performance, things along that line, I would really encourage the viewers to let's stick with time-tested and proven roofing systems. We have a large number of roof systems out there that have great maturity in the industry. Don't feel you necessarily need to jump on the bandwagon on the newest, latest, and greatest. We have a great history of performance in the roofing industry. Let's not try to outdo ourselves, because we usually find out we don't do too well when we do that.
Now, in your experience, what are some of the most common misunderstandings building owners have about warranty coverage in high wind zones?
Well, I think the concept of a warranty for many building owners is if I have a 20-year warranty, that roof becomes out of sight and out of mind for 20 years, and I never have to look at it for another generation. That is simply not the case. The concept that's being implemented into the ICC existing building standard, or the concepts that are in most manufacturers' warranties. Mr. or Mrs. Building Owner, either you or your representative need to get up on a building once or twice a year, do some general maintenance, periodic maintenance, clean out drains, things along that line. Treat your roof like an asset instead of an out of sight, out of mind, and don't want to deal with it proposition. And from the design community, I would say the same thing. We really need to, I think, do a better job conditioning our building owners to treat their roof or their entire building envelope as an asset. If you take care of it, it's going to be there for a good long time. If you ignore it, you're probably going to be surprised before too long. And those turn out to be pretty costly surprises.
Yeah, I bet. So, lastly, I want to bring up one more topic. I want to talk about some leakage within roof drains and piping systems. Have there been any reports of an increase in this happening lately? And if so,
Great question.
yeah, how can we prevent this? I'm assuming yes. How can we prevent it? Can you talk about
it's
it?
interesting. I think we kind of take plumbing and roof drains and piping for granted, and it gets installed and supposedly it works, and it's an out of sight, out of mind proposition. I will say in the last year, and particularly I would say in the last 2 months, the amount of phone calls I've gotten or the amount of reports we've gotten from contractors and designers on roof drain piping leakage is just off the mat. Whether it be, interestingly enough, drain heads or roof drains that are actually not even watertight. Some just have design flaws that they inherently leak. And the amount of piping or pipe joint leaks from the roof drain down to drainage has really been kind of highlighted or focused on in about the last year or so. I think part of that is rainfall intensities are up pretty significantly. We've had some huge rainstorms where I am up in the upper Midwest in the last couple of months. And it's just kind of focused on some problems that we're having with roof drains and roof drain piping. Interestingly enough, in some of these claims, I actually read a deposition the other day where a roof drain manufacturer, a popular supplier that's probably in many of your viewers' specs, actually claimed roof drain is not intended to be watertight. It's a water shedding function. And that is just shocking to me. The whole concept of piping or plumbing is water tightness. I grew up in a family plumbing business, and I could just imagine my father reacting to a concept that plumbing is not intended to be watertight. It's just something we take for granted, but that's not where that particular industry is right now. So I think we're going to be talking a little bit more about the plumbing side of the roofing business as NRCA over the next year, and just kind of keep an eye on the plumbing issues relative to the roofing business. Roof drains, roof drain piping, I think really we need to take a little closer look at it. And from the designer standpoint, be extra special careful. It kind of goes back to my recommendation on roofing. Don't necessarily look at the newest, latest, greatest plumbing systems, roof drain heads, things along that line. We know what works, and let's just stick with that.
Well, thank you again, Mark, for your time today.
It was great seeing you. Thank you.
If anyone listening has any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or Mark, and we'd love to continue the conversation. Until next time, visit us on buildingenclosureonline.com for your technical and educational resources.